In the barren hills outside Jerusalem, where the wind whispered through rocky outcrops and carried the scent of dry earth and distant time, lived a man named Malachi. He was 38 years old, his skin marred by the cruel touch of leprosy that had begun its slow destruction a decade earlier. The disease had started as a small patch on his arm, a numbness he ignored at first, but it spread like judgment. Spots on his face, fingers curling inward, his voice hoarse from the sores in his throat. Malachi had been a stonecutter in Jerusalem, shaping blocks for the temple expansions, proud of his craft and the life he built with his wife Deborah and their 3 young children. But leprosy changed everything. The priests declared him unclean, and he was driven from the city, forbidden to touch his family or enter the temple. Deborah had begged him to fight it, to seek healing in Egypt or Rome, but the resources were gone, spent on physicians who offered only false hope. In the end, she took the children and left, unable to watch him waste away. Malachi did not blame her. Who could live with a walking shadow, a man whose touch brought curse? The leper colony was a grim place, a scattering of caves and rude shelters in the hills where the afflicted gathered like ghosts. Malachi shared a cave with 4 others. Elias, a former soldier blinded by the disease. Tamar, an old woman whose legs had failed her. Josiah, a youth barely 20, whose face was a mask of sores. And Reuben, a merchant who had lost everything to the spots on his hands. They survived on scraps from compassionate travelers, begging at the roadsides with bells to warn the clean away. Malachi's days blurred into nights of pain and prayer, though his prayers felt empty, words thrown to a God who seemed deaf. "Why me?" he would whisper to the stars, his voice cracking. "What sin did I commit to deserve this?" The others shared similar laments, their conversations a litany of lost lives. Elias spoke of battles he could no longer fight, Tamar of grandchildren she would never hold, Josiah of a bride who fled at the sight of him, Reuben of ledgers balanced in vain. Malachi listened, his own grief a dull ache, and sometimes he would lead them in prayer, his hoarse voice the strongest among them. But faith was thin in that place, stretched like worn cloth over broken frames. Yo, if you're feeling like Malachi right now, forgotten, broken, wondering if hope exists for you, hit that like button. Drop clean in the comments if you believe in miracles. Let's see this story through together. It was the autumn of 30 AD, and rumors reached even their forsaken corner. Tales of a teacher from Galilee who performed miracles. Travelers spoke of him as they tossed bread from afar. Jesus of Nazareth, who healed the blind in Jericho, cast out demons in Capernaum, even raised the dead in Nain. The lepers clung to the stories like lifelines. "He heals all who come to him," Elias said one evening, his sightless eyes turned toward the fading light. "The unclean, the outcast, he doesn't turn them away." Malachi scoffed, though his heart quickened. Stories for the hopeful. Priests say only God heals leprosy, and God has forgotten us. But the tales persisted, growing with each passing merchant. They said Jesus taught of a kingdom where the last were first, where mercy triumphed over judgment, where even lepers could be made clean. Malachi found himself listening more closely, his prayers shifting from despair to a tentative plea. "If you are real, teacher, if your power reaches even here." The wind carried the words away, but they echoed in the cave, stirring something long dormant. One crisp morning, as the first chill of winter bit the air, a caravan passed closer than usual. Malachi and his companions rang their bells, their cries hoarse and desperate. The lead wagon stopped, and a man stepped out, not a merchant, but a disciple of the teacher, his robe plain, his face kind. "We heard of your need," he said, tossing down bread and dried fish. "The Master is in Jerusalem for the Passover. Many are healed there. Go, if you have faith." Malachi's hands trembled as he caught the food. "He heals lepers?" The disciple nodded. "All who call on him." The caravan moved on, but the words lingered like the scent of fresh bread. That night, around a small fire fed by scrub wood, the lepers debated. Elias wanted to stay. "The road will kill us before we reach the city." Tamar agreed. "We are too weak." Josiah dreamed aloud. "But if he heals us." Reuben was silent, his ruined hands clasped. Malachi felt the pull strongest. For 10 years he had endured, but the end was near, his sight dimming, his strength fading. What did he have to lose? "We go," he declared. "If we die on the road, at least we tried. If he is who they say, perhaps this is our final prayer answered." The others, moved by his resolve, agreed. They gathered what little they had, cloaks, staffs, a few coins from begging, and set out at dawn, a ragged procession ringing bells to announce their uncleanness. Yo, if Amos's struggle hits home like Malachi's determination, hit that subscribe button. I'm dropping part 2 of this story next week, and trust me, it gets wild. Tell me in the comments, what would you do if you were Malachi right now? Keep hiding or chase the hope? I'm reading every one.
The journey was agony. The road to Jerusalem wound through rocky passes, the sun beating down mercilessly. Malachi's feet blistered, his skin cracking further in the heat. Elias stumbled blindly, guided by Josiah's arm. Tamar leaned on Reuben, her breaths labored. They stopped often, sharing water from a skin, praying in whispers. "Lord, if you will, make us clean," Malachi would say, echoing the stories. Travelers shunned them, but some tossed food, moved by their determination. One night, camped by a stream, Malachi dreamed, a vision of clear water washing his skin, his hands whole, Deborah's face smiling. He woke weeping, hope and fear intertwined. "Is it a sign?" he asked the others. Elias nodded. "Prayer answered, or the madness of desperation?" By the 3rd day, Jerusalem's walls appeared on the horizon, a promise and a threat. The city swelled with Passover pilgrims, the air thick with incense and voices. The lepers approached the gates, bells ringing, cries of "unclean" echoing. Guards turned them back, but Malachi persisted. "We seek the teacher from Nazareth." A pilgrim overheard and pointed. "He's teaching in the temple courts tomorrow, but you cannot enter." Malachi's heart sank. The temple, his former workplace, was forbidden to the unclean. How could they reach him? If this moment has you on the edge of your seat, drop a bell in the comments. I want to know what you think happens next. And if we hit 5,000 likes, I'll film a short version of this story by the actual walls of Jerusalem. Right, make it happen if you're in. As dusk fell, they found a spot outside the walls, near the road pilgrims used. Malachi sat on a stone, his body aching, watching the throng pass. Families laughing, merchants haggling, priests in fine robes. He felt invisible, a shadow among shadows. Then a commotion stirred. A group approached, disciples surrounding a central figure. Malachi's breath caught. It was him, Jesus, walking with purpose, his face calm amid the press. The lepers scrambled to their feet, bells clanging wildly. "Teacher, have mercy on us!" Malachi's voice led the cry, hoarse but fervent. Jesus stopped, his eyes scanning them. The crowd murmured, some recoiling, others curious. He looked at Malachi longest, as if seeing the stonecutter he once was, the father, the man beneath the disease. "Go," Jesus said, his voice carrying authority and compassion. "Show yourselves to the priests." No touch, no ritual, just words. The lepers hesitated, then turned toward the city, hope surging. As they walked, Malachi felt a tingling, a warmth spreading from his core. He glanced at his hand, the spots fading, skin smoothing. "Look!" Josiah gasped, his face clearing. One by one they were healed, flesh renewing before their eyes. They fell to their knees, praising God, tears streaming. If this healing has you feeling the power, drop a hallelujah in the comments. Tell me, have you ever experienced a moment of sudden hope? Subscribe and hit the bell for part 2 next week. It's even more powerful. But Malachi paused. The others continued to the priests as commanded, eager for official cleansing. He turned back, running toward Jesus, who had resumed walking. "Teacher," Malachi cried, falling at his feet, kissing them. "Thank you. I was dead, but you gave me life." Jesus helped him up, his touch clean and sure. "Were not 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Go, but first return thanks to God." Malachi nodded, overcome. The crowd watched, some in awe, others whispering of blasphemy. He rejoined his companions at the priest's gate, where the 9 praised their healing. But Malachi's heart was full, not just of restored body, but of gratitude that demanded worship. The priests examined them, declaring them clean, but Malachi slipped away, returning to the temple courts. There he found Jesus teaching, and knelt again, his voice strong now. "I was a stonecutter, teacher. I shaped rocks for your father's house, but I was unclean inside. You have made me whole." Jesus smiled. "Your faith has saved you." If you're moved by Malachi's gratitude, hit that like button and subscribe. Part 2 comes next week with his new life unfolding. Drop "healed" in the comments if God's touched your life. Share with someone who needs this hope today.
Word of the healing spread through Jerusalem like wildfire, leaping from pilgrim to pilgrim, from marketplace to temple court. The 10 lepers, once shadows of men, walked the streets as living testimonies, their skin smooth and unmarred, their voices clear and strong. The priests, after examining them according to the law, sprinkling blood and oil, confirming the miracle, declared them clean, allowing them to re-enter society. 9 of them scattered like birds released from a cage, eager to reclaim their lives. Elias hurried to his family in Bethany, his sight restored enough to see his wife's face for the first time in years. Tamar shuffled toward her daughter's home, dreaming of holding her grandchildren. Josiah sought out the bride who had fled, his youthful features now whole. Reuben returned to his ledgers, determined to rebuild his merchant life with gratitude. They praised God in the streets, sharing their story with anyone who would listen, and Jerusalem buzzed with the miracle. But Malachi lingered. His healing was complete, fingers straight, voice resonant, skin as it had been in his youth, but his heart burned with something deeper than physical restoration. He had felt the warmth of Jesus' words, seen the compassion in his eyes, and now a fire kindled within him, a gratitude that demanded more than mere return to normalcy. "Your faith has saved you," Jesus had said, and Malachi pondered those words as he stood outside the priest's gate watching his companions depart. Saved, not just healed, but saved. What did that mean for a man who had lost everything? Malachi made his way through the crowds, avoiding the familiar paths of his old life. He did not go to his former home, now occupied by strangers, nor to the stone-cutting yards where colleagues might mock or pity him. Instead, he found a quiet inn near the city walls, paying with the few coins from begging. The innkeeper, hearing his story, offered a room without question, moved by the miracle. That night, Malachi washed in a basin, watching the water run clear over his hands. No more flakes of dead skin, no more pain. He touched his face, feeling smooth flesh where sores had been.
Tears came, not of sorrow, but of overwhelming thanks. "Lord," he prayed, kneeling on the stone floor, "you have made me whole. But what now? I shaped stones for your house once, but I was unclean inside. Clean me there, too." Sleep came fitfully, filled with dreams of chisels striking rock, of Deborah's laughter, of children's voices calling, "Father." In the morning, he arose with purpose. He would find his family, but first he would seek the teacher again. The Passover crowds made it difficult, but Malachi navigated the temple courts where Jesus taught daily. He stood at the back, listening as the Master spoke of the kingdom, a realm not of earthly power, but of love, forgiveness, and eternal life. "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Malachi felt those words pierce him. He had been poor in body, but now he saw his poverty of soul, the pride that had hardened him, the bitterness toward God for his affliction. Hey, if Malachi's awakening is hitting you like it is me, smash that like button. Drop "saved" in the comments if you felt that deeper healing beyond the physical. And subscribe. I'm posting part 3 next week with what happens when he finds his family. Don't miss it. Malachi stayed in Jerusalem through Passover, attending teachings when he could, helping where pilgrims needed aid. His strength returned quickly, the years of weakness sloughing away like the disease itself. He shared his bread with beggars, prayed with the afflicted who still rang bells at the gates. One afternoon, as Jesus spoke of the good shepherd who leaves the 99 to find the one lost sheep, Malachi approached the front. "Teacher," he said, his voice steady, "you found me when I was lost, unclean, forgotten. Now I am clean, but I do not know my path." Jesus looked at him, recognition in his eyes. "The path is love, Malachi. Love God with all your heart and your neighbor as yourself. Go and do this." Those words became Malachi's compass. He left Jerusalem after the feast, heading north to Capernaum, where Deborah had taken the children after his banishment. The road was long, winding through Samaria, but Malachi traveled with renewed vigor, stopping to help travelers, sharing his story at wells and crossroads. "I was a leper," he would say, showing his hands, "but the teacher made me whole." Some scoffed, calling him mad. Others listened, their faces softening with hope. One evening, near Nain, he met a widow whose son had died, reminding him of the teacher's miracle there. He prayed with her, and peace settled over her grief. Word of Malachi the healed spread ahead of him, reaching even Capernaum.
When he arrived, the town stirred. Deborah heard from a neighbor and came to the gate, her face pale, eyes wide. "Malachi?" she whispered, as if seeing a ghost. He stood there, whole and strong, tears in his eyes. "Deborah, I am clean. The teacher healed me." She reached out tentatively, touching his arm, then his face, feeling the smooth skin. Sobs broke from her, and she embraced him, the years of separation melting away. Their children, now young adults, aged by time and sorrow, came running. The eldest son, Aaron, hesitated, remembering the father driven away. "Is it truly you, Father, or a cruel jest?" Malachi knelt, showing his hands. "It is I, healed by the mercy of God through Jesus of Nazareth. Forgive me for the years I was lost, not to disease, but to despair. I was unclean in heart as well." The children wept, embracing him, the family restored in a flood of forgiveness. Deborah led him home, their modest house now filled with voices long silent. That night they shared a meal, Malachi recounting his journey, the healing, the words of Jesus. "He said my faith saved me," Malachi explained. "Not just my body, but my soul. I was blind to God's love, but now I see." Aaron, the skeptic, asked, "What now?" The priests declared you clean. Can you return to stone cutting? Malachi shook his head. The stones I shape now are lives. I will tell of this mercy, help others find healing. If family restoration like this moves you to tears, hit subscribe and the bell. Part 3 drops next week with Malachi's new calling. Comment restored if God's mended something broken in your life. Share this part with a family member who needs reconciliation today. Malachi's life became a ministry of mercy. He returned to Jerusalem with his family, settling in a small house near the city. Deborah took up weaving again, the children finding work, Aaron as a carpenter, the daughters helping in the home. But Malachi wandered the roads, seeking the afflicted. He visited leper colonies, bringing food and hope, praying with the unclean as he once was. The teacher heals all who call on him, he would say, his voice carrying authority born of experience. Some were healed through prayer, their faith ignited. Others found comfort in his presence, knowing one who understood their isolation. Malachi worked with the priests, guiding the healed through rituals of cleansing, testifying in the temple courts. Pharisees questioned him, "By whose authority do you speak?" He replied simply, "By the authority of the one who made me clean, Jesus of Nazareth." Crowds gathered, drawn by the miracle, and Malachi's words stirred hearts. He spoke of gratitude, of the 9 who did not return to give thanks, of how praise opens the door to deeper salvation. Healing is a gift, he taught, but worship is the response that transforms us. News of Jesus' arrest reached Jerusalem like a thunderclap. Malachi heard it in the marketplace, his heart sinking. The teacher, arrested by Roman soldiers, tried before the Sanhedrin, accused of blasphemy for claiming equality with God. Malachi rushed to the praetorium, joining the crowd that jeered and wept. He saw Jesus, beaten and crowned with thorns, carrying his cross through the streets. "Teacher!" Malachi cried, pushing forward, but soldiers shoved him back. As Jesus passed, their eyes met again, compassion unbroken, even in suffering. Malachi fell to his knees, whispering, "You healed me. Now I pray for you." At the crucifixion, he stood at the foot of the cross with Mary and the beloved disciple, his heart breaking. "Father, forgive them," Jesus gasped, and Malachi echoed the prayer, tears streaming. Darkness fell over the land, the earth shook, and Jesus breathed his last. Malachi felt the world shatter, the light that had cleansed him extinguished. He returned home, grief heavy, but 3 days later, rumors flew, the tomb empty, the teacher risen. Malachi sought the disciples, hearing their testimony, Mary Magdalene's encounter, the road to Emmaus, the upper room appearance. "He lives," they declared, and Malachi believed, his faith now unshakable. If the resurrection hope in this story lifts your spirit, like and comment, "Risen." Tell me how Jesus has brought new life to you. Subscribe for more biblical miracles every week. In the years that followed, Malachi's testimony echoed throughout Judea. He became a leader among the early believers, his home a gathering place for prayer and teaching. Deborah and the children grew in faith, Aaron becoming a deacon, the daughters serving the poor. But Malachi wandered the roads, seeking the afflicted. He visited leper colonies, bringing food and hope, praying with the unclean as he once was. "The teacher heals all who call on him," he would say, his voice carrying authority born of experience. Some were healed through prayer, their faith ignited. Others found comfort in his presence, knowing one who understood their isolation. Malachi worked with the priests, guiding the healed through rituals of cleansing, testifying in the temple courts. Pharisees questioned him. "By whose authority do you speak?" He replied simply, "By the authority of the one who made me clean, Jesus of Nazareth." Crowds gathered, drawn by the miracle, and Malachi's words stirred hearts. He spoke of gratitude, of the 9 who did not return to give thanks, of how praise opens the door to deeper salvation. Healing is a gift, he taught, but worship is the response that transforms us. If Malachi's journey inspires you, smash subscribe, new stories weekly. Drop cleansed in comments if God has restored you. Grace and peace, friends.